These things move around quite a bit, I've learned.
That's not a good combination. So we have slippery stools and beer. So we're going to have fun tonight.
A lot of fun. Okay, so thought we would start with a little bit of background on Steven before we get started. Currently live in San Diego, correct?
Correct.
All right. Graduated from Eastern Kentucky University. Studied finance and human communications. First job out of college, regional sales director for Curtin Matheson. Did I say that right?
Right. Fisher Scientific, basically.
Fisher Scientific, got it. The one that really stood out was you were employee number 8 at Purchase Pro. You were in very early there, is that right?
Right, yeah.
Were you there up to the IPO? They did IPO, is that correct?
Right, Purchase Pro. Well, first, before I begin, thank you all for coming out. We're going to have a good time tonight. It's wonderful to see so many smiling faces. Yeah, nice. Most everyone's smiling. And by the way, before we get started, if you get a chance next month and the following month and the following month after that, I'm good friends with Mel and Lars, who you saw up on the screen. Wonderful CEOs, great stories. You'll want to hear their stories. I think the week following, or the month following that, is Scott from Classy. If you don't know Classy, they're an unbelievably awesome organization. They've scaled to hundreds of employees. Located right down the street here, but just started off literally in PB doing like drinking tours, and next thing you know, they're one of the largest SaaS companies for the giving space, and just a fabulous story. Scott's a great guy, so I really encourage you, if you get a chance, mark that on your calendars. It's going to be a wonderful next 2 to 3 months. So that being said. What was the question?
So Purchase Pro, you were in early. You were also in early with College Club, is that right? And then managing partner for, am I going to say it? Is it Redo It Partners?
Reddito
Partners LLC. And then finally, in
Take
2006, TakeLessons.com. All right, which we want to hear a little more about. Before we do that, typically we like to jump into a little bit of background. So, are you from San Diego? How did you get to San Diego? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that experience, how you arrived here. Or...
Sure. So I grew up in the Midwest, so Midwest guy. Grew up in Dayton, Ohio, and went to school in Kentucky at Eastern Kentucky University. It's basically the only college that would have me due to my high school grades. Wonderful environment, and this kind of dovetails into how I got started in the technology realm. But was a finance guy there in school, and moved to Lexington, Kentucky, started working for Eli Lilly selling Prozac, which I could tell you a ton of stories about that. That was a ton of fun. But I remember my buddy and I, we were kind of working and doing our thing. It's like, hey man, this working for the man, I don't really dig it. It's not really what I want to do. And around that time, we had another friend who had invested in this company out in Las Vegas. And the company raised about $1 million from, and this was back in about 96 or so, raised about $1 million. And being Vegas, the owner, the CEO, literally gambled the money away. Like literally gambled the money away. And I think he's still in jail, I'm not sure. But So my friend is like, hey, listen, so there's this company out in Vegas. The owner gambled away the money. We're going to go take it over. Do you want to come? And around that time, I was 25, 26. And I said, well, I don't know. What do they do? He goes, well, we're going to let people buy and sell stuff over the internet. I'm like, oh, the internet. I heard about that. That sounds really cool. So this was on a Thursday. So Friday, I called my boss and told him I quit. And Saturday and Sunday, I packed everything I owned in a budget mini rental van. And on Monday, we hightailed it out of Lexington, Kentucky, and went out to Vegas. And I had never been out west before. But what I knew was that what I was doing was not fulfilling for me. And I knew that I wanted to do more. And then I had this entrepreneurial bug in me. Plus, I wanted to get out west. Not that Kentucky's a great place, as you know, but I had another desire, right? I felt like out west was where I wanted to be. So we booked it out to Las Vegas and started Purchase Pro, which was a company that allowed big hotels to buy and do transactions over the internet. Landed our first client, which happened to have been the Mirage,
Nice.
with Steve Wynn, and he basically forced all of his vendors to get on the system. So that was super cool for us. And from there, the company grew from about 8 employees to 800 employees in 2.5 years. Explosive growth. Went IPO the next year after that, and this was kind of in this first internet bubble. And I was looking around, and after we went IPO, we're all sitting here kind of not knowing what happened, but I remember I'm in my 1982 Mazda GLC hatchback. Like one of the doors didn't open because like someone had hit it before, and it didn't have air conditioning, and I'm in Las Vegas, and I had to wear the suit and tie and driving around selling purchasing software to these people. And I remember looking up at Steve Wynn had just completed the Bellagio. Anybody been to the Bellagio or seen it? Yeah, okay, cool. Beautiful, unbelievable hotel. I'm driving by, and there's people coming in and out, and things happening, and people buying things, and eating dinner, and spending money. And our little software company was worth more than all of Steve Wynn's properties put together. And I thought to myself, something's wrong, right? This doesn't add up. And I remember there were a few of us that says, wow, this something's going to happen here. This just can't continue. And so I sold a couple shares, luckily, and literally within 4 months from that period, our shares had went from $180 to $3. And what I learned through that whole process was that if something feels too good to be true, it probably is. And what goes up can certainly come down. And there's no easy ride, right? If you feel like things are too easy and everyone's just making money, and you saw it again in the real estate bubble from 2004 to 2008, these are signs, right? These are things where I've seen this twice now, and you can start to recognize patterns. There will be another one. And this time I will be very prepared, right? Because you start seeing these patterns develop. So I did luck out and was able again to sell a few shares. And how I got to San Diego, I was in Vegas and chased a girl to San Diego. That's what all of us guys do, right? But they know. This is what happens. So luckily the girl didn't work out. So lucky for me, that was a whole different story.
Okay.
But
we can talk about it if you want.
I do need some therapy, but not tonight.
All right.
But but I remember the first time I flew into San Diego, she invited me, and so the first time I flew into San Diego, I was in this, and I don't know if you guys, some of you, how many of you are from here? Raise your hand. Okay, quite a few. How many of you are not? Raise your hand. So I had this unusual experience with San Diego that I've never had with another city. I was here to visit my friend, and I flew in, and I was sitting in a window seat. And it's on the left side of the plane, so as you fly in, you get to see the city. And it just so happens, right when I was flying in, the sun was setting, the lights were sparkling over the city, and I just looked out, and I was like, home. Like, this is where I want to be. Like, I immediately felt that. And we got off the plane, and the next day I was up through La Jolla, and saw the Cove, and I was done. I was like, oh. For a Midwest guy, who's used to 10 below zero in the wintertime, San Diego was and still is heaven on earth. It's the most beautiful place, not only to be from and to build an incredible life, but as it turns out, this is also an absolutely incredible place to build a business along with that. So you have both the best worlds. You have, I tell people all the time, San Diego is 45% cheaper in housing than what you will find in the Bay Area. It is about 45 degrees warmer than what you'd find in New York, probably a lot more sometimes. And the air quality is 450 times better than what you find in LA. So literally it's the best that you could possibly have. Wonderful entrepreneurs, true collaborative environment. And it's what I find is it's a lot of really smart people working on important things. The biotech community is absolutely exploding, bioinformatics. We were visiting at UCSD last week and met with the computer science department. Smart people, man. They were talking about things I had no idea what they were even talking about. They were just brilliant folks graduating from the universities. A lot of data intelligence coming out of there. So I feel very fortunate and humbled to be here in San Diego.
It's great. Back to this bug, the entrepreneurial bug. I mean, what was it that got you hooked? When did you know that, I would at some point want to go out on my own and really do something on my own? I mean, was it one thing? Was it a culmination of things?
Yeah. So a psychologist will tell you that one is motivated by one of two factors. It's either to attract pleasure or to avoid pain. Right? If you think about anything that you do in life, it is always to do, if you break it down to the lizard brain, it's to do one of those two factors. And in my life, if I think way back on what originally prompted me, I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and living in Dayton, Ohio, growing up there. I remember it was a really very, very cold evening in Dayton, Ohio, and I grew up in a really poor family. My mom and dad never finished high school and got married, and that's kind of what you do back then. And they never finished high school and certainly didn't go to college. And they were just struggling. And my dad was a Pentecostal preacher, and he was living on a church salary, which wasn't a lot. And there were 6 of us in the family. So I remember it was always a struggle to pay bills and this sort of thing. And I remember it was a really cold night, and we all sat down for dinner, the 6 of us. And my mom sent me out to the mailbox. She goes, "Hey, will you go out and get the mail?" I said, "Sure." So I, ran out and put on my jacket and scurried through the snow to the mailbox, and just cold as anything. And the draft was coming through the house. And I got back in and dropped the mail off to my mom, and she kind of lifted through some of the mail. And I remember her pulling out the Dayton Power and Light bill. This was kind of the bill for the electricity. And she opened it up, and we were all just sitting there having dinner. And I remember her just looking at it, and then she just started bawling. And I remember her going, "I have no idea how we're going to pay for this. I have no idea how we're going to keep the lights on." And it was just this sunken defeat of her 4 boys and dad doing the best they can, but no way to pay the bill, and a fear of getting the bill shut off. And there was something inside of me, I remember to this day, where looking at her face and the amount of distraught, where I just said, "I will never put my family through this." Like there was something inside me where I didn't want that to happen, where this fear, right, and this pain that I saw, I decided and determined that wasn't going to be my path. And I didn't know what that path might be, but I knew, hey, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get educated. I'm going to try. I'm going to figure something out. And it was from that path that I started reading self-help books. Everything from Anthony Robbins to Brian Tracy to you name it, anything I could get my hands on. And then I would look in the back of these magazines where they'd have the little ads where you could learn how to get rich in 4 days or something like that for $10. And I would literally save my money and buy those books. And basically the book was run an ad and sell a book. That was kind of their thing. So I never got rich from that. But I learned the cycle of this fear of not wanting to put a family through that, and then just I started to understand that life gives you what you want it to give, and you do have a choice, and you can make a difference in your life, and you can fundamentally change your outcome. And wherever you start is not where you have to end up. And learning some of those character traits over time and getting some very important people in my life that helped coach me along the way guided me towards this life of being an entrepreneur. And so I said, well, this is great. I'm just going to start my own business, and I'm going to be rich then. It's no problem. It wasn't rich just because I wanted to be a baller, right? It wasn't so I could go down to Flex and buy bottles. It was because of the fear. And fear is an extremely wonderful motivator if you channel it the right way. So so I remember I was in college and I said, okay, well, this is cool. So I tried to buy a pizza business just because it was on sale and I figured I could make $1,000 a month. I was like, that's great. And so that didn't work and I couldn't. So then I read this book on how to buy real estate. This is the answer. So I read this book and it said that I could go talk to people and ask them to basically go on the loan with me if I found this certain type of loan, an FHA mortgage, and I could stay on the loan and they could stay on the loan and then I could own their house. I said, oh, that's cool. I'll just do that. So I started calling people and asking them if I could basically buy their house and if they would stay on the loan with me. And
Can we try one of those?
yeah. 4 months later, I owned 7 houses.
Wow. Really?
I didn't even own a car. I had no car. I was making $800 a month. Part of that was through financial aid, and it bought 7 houses through this FHA mortgage thing. And so the school newspaper ran this story about how this kid's buying all this property in Kentucky. Crazy. And then winter hit, and then pipes started bursting in the houses. And I remember one Christmas, I had gotten these houses, and I thought, oh well, this is super easy. It's back to the point, nothing's ever easy. And my tenants started calling, and I had 3 pipes burst in 3 separate houses on Christmas Day, and it was below zero. And I literally had to ride my bike to their house to try to figure out how to replace pipes. And I knew nothing about replacing pipes. I still don't know much about replacing pipes, quite frankly. But I learned, again, some very valuable things. And again, if it's too easy, it's probably not right. Second thing I learned is you better have capital reserves. I didn't have capital reserves, so I had to give all the properties back. Luckily, they just had to take them back. It was a side note, basically. So I lucked out there. But I learned some very valuable lessons, and I think the most valuable lesson that I learned from all that was you're going to screw up and it just doesn't matter. You're going to mess things up and it's okay. And I think I have some of my employees on the second to last row back there, but I think we still talk about that today in our business right now. It's that we're going to mess things up, I can guarantee you, and you just run with it. It's going to be okay if you allow yourself to surrender to not being perfect and surrender to being okay with making mistakes. I find that I'm, first of all, much more calm because my expectation of myself is lowered, and sometimes that's a good thing. I wrote a blog post once, it's called Lower the Bar, and that is, how low can I set the bar for myself to feel happy and successful? Because the more I can do that, the more happy and successful I can be, right? How many of you have this, maybe you don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to, but I used to do this. I used to set the bar really high, right? In order for me to feel happy, in order for me to feel successful, I have to make this amount of money, I have to have this amount of employees, we have to be doing this in revenue, my personal life has to be doing X, Y, and Z, and until I reach that point, I'm not allowing myself to be fulfilled. And I figured that's pretty stupid. Why do I want to do that? I want to set the bar really low. Like, I want to make it really easy for me to be happy. And again, there's a difference. Be happy and joyous where I am, not satisfied. Right? You can be happy and joyous in where you are and still be hungry. Right? And that's the key, is learning how to balance hunger and the desire with acceptance of where you are and acceptance of where your company is. Some of us have employees in the hundreds, I see. Some of us are single, sole source entrepreneurs. And there's this, when I was a sole source entrepreneur, I had 2 people. I didn't think I was enough because I should have 10, or I saw someone else having 20 or 30. And I think it's taken me quite a while to figure out that I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And each one of us we're right where we're supposed to be. Whatever level you're at now is okay. Like, if you can surrender and accept that level, it makes getting to the next level that much easier because you're actually at peace, right? Your brain is clear to think about the future and while accepting where you are. And for me, that's been a wonderful path to walk down. It certainly came later through my entrepreneurial journey. It wasn't earlier. I was a pain in the ass earlier and never
Sure.
satisfied, and maybe even a jerk to be around sometimes. I don't know. Possibly still a jerk to be around. It's my girlfriend Mia, she'll tell you. But I've learned that through time that it's okay to accept where you are and still strive to be more.
Right. Thank you for that, by the way. Have you met Tony Robbins? You mentioned that the self-help? No? Okay. Well, let's talk about where you are right now. TakeLessons.com. So where did this come from? Where did the idea come from? Maybe we can start there. And then was this something you really went, this was 100% on your own, you said, it's time for me to take this leap, which, we hear a lot of people talk about it can be a difficult thing to do, right? I mean, I think you talked about having, some capital investment or having something to fall back on, but, where were you when this idea came to fruition and when you knew you wanted to move forward with it?
Sure. So I'll take you back to the Purchase Pro days, and
Okay.
we had went public, and I moved down to San Diego, was able to, again, sell a few shares off. And so what I decided is, hey, I sold a few shares off, and I'm going to just chill out and not do anything. And so what I did is, and I'm going to sidestep just a little bit and tell you, because there's a lesson here that I learned, again, personally for me. So I was 29 at the time, did our IPO, everything was great, and I said, oh, great, look, I'm the man. It's a guy thing, right? You know what I'm talking about. Oh, look at me, I'm so cool. And what I did is I said, oh, well, I'll just kind of kick back now. And I've been working my ass off, just day after day, and then this happened. I was like, oh, great, I can just chill now. And what I did is I had this attitude. I remember writing just in my own personal journal. I remember writing and going, what I had done then is I had decided that it was time for me just to kind of chill, kick back, and let the game come to me instead of me going to the game, right? And I did that for about 6 months. And I remember one day a buddy of mine called me, and he had started a business and was looking for some advice. And he started asking me some questions. And I couldn't give him any answers. Like, my brain had atrophied. Like, I wasn't as smart as what I used to be. Not that I was smart before, but now I was really not smart. And I figured out that I was actually getting weaker by not challenging my brain every day and actually working on something. And I came to the realization that I was meant to be gainfully employed, even if it's myself. And this idea of coasting, it sounds cool. Hey, just go sit on a beach and go to Mission Beach and hang out and goof off. It's not that cool. It really isn't, especially if you are motivated to do something. So that was a big lesson that I learned, was that coasting for me is a terrible idea. Like, I'm not satisfied personally when I coast. So I came to this realization and decided that I wanted to do something again, and I was ready to get back in. It took 5 or 6 months, and I'm ready.
Okay.
So I had been just thinking about kind of what I wanted to do, and I wasn't exactly sure. So I said, what I really want to do, first of all, is I want to join a rock band. So
awesome.
That's what I want to do, right? And so I come from a very musically oriented family. Again, my dad being a pastor of a Pentecostal church, we grew up playing instruments. My parents cut records, my grandparents cut records, all my brothers are still players in church. I'm kind of the least musically oriented and talented, quite frankly, out of all of them. They're very good, I'm not. But I said, well, I've got a little bit of talent, I'm going to join a rock band. So I started a rock band here in San Diego and traveled around for 2.5 years. There were 4 of us in the band, and alternative rock. 2 albums on iTunes. You can check it out.
What's the name of the band?
Across the Room. Across the Room. It's kind of like 90s rock. Its time has passed, truthfully. But we had a ton of fun. Wrote a ton of songs and really got to experience just my own inner emotion. And while we were playing, I was thinking again just how the internet was shaping up, and I had seen kind of product move to the web in a really big way, and I thought, man, at some point, services is going to move to the web in a big way. Mm-hmm. So this was playing in my mind, and our 4-piece band, we had a drummer, a guitarist, a bassist, and then I was the lead singer. And our guitarist ended up in jail. I don't know, he stole something from someone. So then we were down to 3 people. And then our bass player had like issues with his wife and then his mistress. So that, it's typical rock band. So then he went away to Michigan or something like that. So then there was just 2 of us, me and Enrique. And Enrique was really good. He had a master's degree in music performance, an incredible drummer, and not only that, but just a beautiful person. And so we were doing the White Stripes thing, playing gigs. And I remember there was a gig up in Encinitas at the E Street Cafe. It was a Sunday afternoon. You've been there? Yeah? Okay. Just a little coffee shop, and we were doing an acoustic set. And after the gig, we went over to the margarita place across the road and started drinking, which is what we did normally. And he said, "Hey, Stephen, I've got some news for you. I've got to quit the band." I'm like, "Well, you're the only one any good. If you quit the band, this is not going to be good for the band." So, I started talking with him, and I said, "Well, what's going on? Why do you have to quit the band?" And he said, "Well, I just got married, and we're trying to buy our first condo up in Encinitas. And I don't know if you've heard, but playing music's not necessarily the best way to make a living around here." But he was really trying, and he said, "So I just found out, we're trying to buy this house, and we have our first baby along the way. So I've got to make some really hard choices." And I've studied music my entire life. I live, I breathe music. It's what I want to do, but I can't make a living doing this. So I've talked it over with my wife, and I'm going to quit playing, and I'm going to go be a cook at Chili's restaurant. And my heart just sank. That same feeling you're probably feeling right now. Right? That here was a guy that had studied his entire life to do something that he loves to do. And he can't figure out how to make a living doing that. So he has to go do something that he has to do. And it was gut-wrenching. And so I started talking with Enrique, and I said, "Hey, well, are you playing other gigs?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, are you teaching?" He said, "Well, I've got my poster. It's hanging up at the local drugstore, with the little tabs that they tear off." I said, "So I've got that, but no one's really calling me." And I said, well, why don't you use the internet?" He said, "Well, I don't really know how to do that. I'm a musician." I said, "Well, that's my background. That's what I do. Why don't we work on something together, and I'll see if I can help you." And so we started working on this idea of how do you match students and teachers on a local level. And come to find out, he had the same problem that literally tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of not only musicians, but freelance independent instructors have all over the nation and all over the world. And it's how do I take my passion and make a business out of it? How do I do something that I love to do instead of something that I have to do? And so it was really out of helping keep Enrique out of Chili's that we wanted to start our business. And I'm happy to report that Enrique never took that job with Chili's. He still teaches for us today. He has 2 beautiful children. And I just talked to him the other day, and he's happy as anything because he's doing something that he loves to do. And that was truly the driver and it's still what we talk about in our company today. Right. How do we help the freelance instructor make a living doing what they love to do by giving an incredible experience to the people?
That's awesome. I was actually looking for somebody to help my daughter with singing, and I went to take lessons last night and found a couple killer choices.
Perfect.
I hadn't used it before, and I'm up in Encinitas as well. Can we get a little technical with the platform now?
Sure.
So you've given this great story about how you've come up with the idea. Now, how do we take that to the next level? And I think some of us are at that level. A lot of people who are entrepreneurs are thinking about how to get to the next level. How do you just make that jump, that shift? I mean, what's the team you start to put around yourself, or how did you?
How many people own their own business in here? Okay, great. How many want to? All right, so basically everybody. It's either you already do or you want to. How many of you those of you who want to start, obviously you're at either 0 or 1 employee. For those of you who have a business, how many of you are at 50 employees or above? 30, 20. Okay, so we've got 20, below 10. Okay, great. So it's truly relevant. How do we start something and then build it? So I'll give you my background again, how we started Take Lessons.
Yeah.
So the very first learning is this will probably take a long time. And so settle in for a long ass ride and just be okay with it. It's probably, on occasion you hear the anomaly, right? Oh, look, the unicorn, this, blah, blah, blah. Forget all that, right? Most likely your business is going to take a long time to develop. So just settle in and know that that's the case. And if you start with that mentality, the ease, I find that it's much easier than wanting somehow to just explode and then you disappoint yourself, and then you don't, again, I'm setting the bar low, right? I'm like, hey, I'm going to be happy because we got a first customer.
Right.
For Take Lessons, when we started off, we started on my spare bedroom, and it was me and Enrique, cold calling instructors. We hired 2 guys out of India to build the first iteration of the site. I personally funded the business out of the gate with my own money from my prior businesses, and lo and behold, we tried it, and you'll never guess what happened. Nothing happened. We tried it, no one signed up, no one came on board. It was terrible. And all the big ideas, we figured out that we didn't really know as much as we thought we did. So we were in for the long haul, and we got some local, found my co-founder, who was a technical co-founder, and we started building out the next iteration of the product. When we started, then we built up a team to about 5 or 6 people, 3 developers, myself with business development, and then sales and support person. And we were all making $250 a month. And then we got a raise. We went to $500 a month. And this was about a year and a half in. $750, and then we eventually made it up to like $1,000 a month. So this was about 2.5 years of really self-sacrifice. And they got a lot of stock in the company for doing that. And I find that there are people out there who are hungry for startups. This is one thing that I learned. If you're thinking about starting your own business, and maybe you're either a technical founder and you need a business co-founder, or you're a business co-founder and you need a technical person. There are people, in fact, I had a conversation just here tonight where a guy's talking, hey, I work for this big corporation. Not that exciting, right? Mm-hmm. It's there, but I really want to do my own thing. And sometimes people want to do their own thing. Other times they want to be a part of something that's going on. And I believe that the very first job of the entrepreneur, of the CEO, is to get other people fired up about your vision. That is your very first test. If you can't pass that test, it is going to be extremely difficult to build your business. So if you think about, what is my number one job? How do I get the resources that I need when I don't have them? I couldn't pay people, right? I could, but I guess I chose not to. I chose not to. I didn't want to run out of money, right? I wasn't working either. This was my capital. I didn't have a venture capital. So if you think about that, there are technical co-founders right now that would love to join you in your idea. But you have got to find them, and it is a ton of work to find them. Same thing vice versa if you're a technical co-founder. You've got to go out, be a part of these sorts of events, network, tell people your idea, get someone fired up about what you're doing. Someone, if it's a good idea and you're passionate about it and you can lead, someone will bite. And that can make all the difference in the world. Right? You could start to build that team. And it's certainly not easy, and it takes a ton of work in order to do that. But it certainly can happen. And I had a friend tell me when I was him-hawing around and bitching about not being able to find someone, he sat me down and he's like, and he used the F word, he's like, shut the F up. And there are people that are dying inside, right? There's no passion in their work. There's no passion in what they do, and they are dying to join something fun. Their husband or their wife works, they've got a steady set income, and they can afford to take a risk. He said, go find those people. And it shook me. I said, oh, okay, it's up to me. And that's exactly what we did. We went out and we found people shaking the tree, and I started talking to people, say, hey, do you know of anyone who can help out? And here's what I have to offer, and here's what we're building, and we are going to build the next big thing. And I believed it. And we were able to find the right people to get us started.
That's huge. That's really amazing. And I say that because it's one of the truest things that I know, having been a part of a startup. I'm not, you are the guy that's going to go out and start a company. I just think I know that about myself, but I was a part of that initial core team, and it's important to find those people. You actually answered the question I was going to ask you, so I'll move on to, once you've got the team, you've got this killer idea, you've got passion behind it. When did you know you were onto something? When did you really start making the impact of the market? And then I'll throw one other piece in there that I know some of us are really curious about is traction methods. What were you doing, the blocking and tackling to really start bringing users to the site?
Mm-hmm. I'll start with the second
Yeah.
question. So Paul Graham, you guys know who Paul Graham is? A venture capitalist who's, I think he's with not with Union Square Ventures. He started Y Combinator.
Y Combinator.
Very well written essays on his blog. Go to paulgraham.com. But one thing that he says is when you're early, you have to do things that don't scale. So do things that at scale you'd never ever do. And as an example, what we did at Take Lessons, literally, Enrique and I cold called teachers and brought them on board, handheld them in to get this thing up and running. Recently, over the past couple months, we just kicked off a brand new online learning platform at Take Lessons, where everything's shifting online. We now own our own online education platform that teachers can use to build their business on top of. And you know what we're doing to onboard teachers? We are cold calling, hand-picking them, and bringing them on one at a time for starters. It's the exact same methodology right out of the gate. If you think about this happens to be a new product for us, but it very well could be a new company for someone else in parallel. So if you think about when you're first starting, you have to get product market fit. You have to get a customer who is willing to come to your site and either join in case if you're some sort of social type network, or pay you. People forget about that. It's important that people are willing to pay you for what you do. So I think there's, again, the first test is, can I build a team? The second test is, can I get product market fit before I run out of money? Mm-hmm. So very early on, plan on doing things that don't scale, figure out what the market will pay you for, and do more of that. Whatever it won't pay you for, stop. I don't care how cool it is. And as technologists, I, to some degree, lump myself into that. We have kind of the shiny object syndrome. Anybody else have that, where it's kind of like, oh, look, we can build this, or we can put cool emojis, right? Which is cool. It's fun. But not at the expense of finding out what the customer will pay you for. What is the need of the customer, and focusing 100% of your efforts on those. The second part of your question was with respect to when we knew we had something, when we felt like we had something, a tipping point. I'll let you know when we're there. Like our path has not been a rocket ship path. Our
Right.
path has been a grind it out day after day, figure things out, start, stop, break things. Hopefully it works. Oh shit. Okay, that worked. But it's certainly not been this kind of this unbelievable exponential growth. For us, it's a great steady growth, and certainly growing faster than most companies. But for us, it's trying a lot of things, figuring out what works, and doing more of them. We have this concept inside the company. It's called Seed, Select, Amplify. Very simple. We plant a lot of seeds. Mm-hmm. We watch what the customer does. We select those that the customer likes, and we amplify efforts towards those and let the others die off. So it's kind of the Seed, Select, Amplify that we do. We just kicked off, again, our online platform. We launched into several categories where anyone can now come in and sign up and take free classes. So you can take Korean or photography, or what other classes did we start? French. Sewing. Yes, sewing. I didn't even know that. Sewing. You can sign up for sewing classes. But what we're doing is we're going to kick off a lot of these, and we're going to do the same sort of methodology. We're going to see what resonates with the customer, and whatever resonates, we're going to add more classes from there, and some of the other things will fade away. So again, it's all about finding product market fit and keeping. We're one of those companies. We're not full of bravado. We're not on TechCrunch. In fact, we kind of shy away from that a bit. Mm-hmm. We're more of a heads down, We have a saying in the office. In fact, I think I don't know if it's up anymore, but it's like big bold. It's like get shit done.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's really what we focus on. It's build the right core values, hire the right people that believe that, and then keep your head down and just get shit done. And
Yeah.
that's kind of, we don't really look up to, I don't know, see our exponential growth. I just feel like every day is just one step in front of the next.
Investments. When, from your perspective, is the right time to start taking on investing? VCs, talking to people who are prepared to put in funding the companies, outside of what you're doing. I mean, is there a point that you got to that you said, okay, let's start talking to people? Is it something you're doing all the time as the CEO and the founder? I know a lot of people that do spend a lot of time doing that. Maybe you can talk to us about that.
So if you think about the role of the CEO, how many of you are going to be CEO, even of your own company? Yes? Several? Really? Nobody? Okay, there you go. This is group participation. If you're CEO, the 3 letters you have to remember is PCP. Not the drug, right? That's for a different type of CEO. But PCP stands for people, capital, and process. These are the 3 roles that I believe that the CEO plays. People, making sure that you've got the right people on the bus and the right seats are filled. Process, meaning that you're able to systematize the things that work over and over so you can scale. And the third is capital. Capital is the blood of the business, no doubt about it. You have to have capital in order to work things. Our personal path, again, I funded the business out of the gate. We were able to raise a little bit of angel money just from friends and family, people that believed in me personally, that knew me and knew my character, and said, okay, I'll give that guy a little bit of capital. And that's another point. If you want people to give you money, be the type of person who deserves it, right? Be honest, be accessible, and be trustworthy. If you're not any of those things, you should not start a business, because someone will see through you, right? And then they'll tell all their friends, and it's going to be dead anyway, right? So be the type of person that deserves capital, I would say. So we were able to raise a little bit of money, and we got the business to several million dollars in revenue, and had just broke even before we raised any venture capital. And then we signed a deal with Best Buy, where we were literally going to staff 138 Best Buy stores around the nation. They wanted to put in these learning centers inside Best Buy. So there was no way for us to do that. Like, we did not have the wherewithal to hire people in order to staff that. So it was at that point where we were at a point where we had this huge growth opportunity and no way to get there without capital, when it was the right decision for us to raise capital. So we went, and this was 2011. So by that time we had self-funded for several years, got the business where we needed it to, and talked to 44 venture capital firms, and finally got a yes.
And what was the time frame for the 44 that you talked to? Was that like over a month, 2 months, couple months?
Yeah, probably about 6 weeks.
Hustle.
Yes.
A lot of hustle.
Yeah, it becomes your full-time job.
Yeah.
So if you decide that you want to walk down this path, first of all, it's probably not the right situation for every company. There has to be a very good story. You're competing against hundreds of other companies that are trying to vie for that same amount of capital. So your story has to be good. Your team has to be good. You have to have traction already ready to go. And if you have those sorts of things, and then you want to get in a marriage that you cannot get out of, then maybe perhaps you should consider it. But I would say, think about it long and hard. It's not for everybody, and there are terrible stories I've heard. Did anybody know College Club here in town? They were located literally in this building in the 90s, raised $78 million in funding, was the 44th largest site in the world. They had this idea that they wanted college students to join a social network.
And be their ambassadors.
Yeah.
I looked it up, so I...
Yeah, College Club. And it was right here, 300 and some employees here in town. And they also had the wrong investors, and when it hit the fan, the investors didn't stand up for the company, and the company went out of business. Literally, it was doing great. 2 months later, the company was completely bankrupt because of the burn. So you have to know what investors you have. You have to know that they're committed to the company long term, that they have reserves, and that they're willing to believe in your mission for as long as you are.
I want to make sure we've got some time for questions. Greatest opportunities for San Diego-based startups. Where do you see those?
Certainly just San Diego. I'm obviously a giant fan of San Diego. It's a wonderful place to grow a business. If some of you saw the latest software power index that was put out just a few weeks ago, San Diego ranked out of the top 50 metro areas with respect to just software engineering, number 6 across the nation. So obviously Palo Alto and San Jose and the Bay Area is the mecca, right? That's going to be number 1 and will always be number 1 for at least the foreseeable future. But if you think about San Diego, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity as a software engineer, as a business person hooking up with software engineers to grow and develop really awesome businesses. What I find is that the employees in comparison to the Bay Area are a lot more loyal. Like they stick around your company in the Bay Area. For those of you who don't know, what happens is as soon as stock vests, people jump ship, and it's a constant battle to try to keep engineers as well as business people into the company. So if you're into big data, which we saw as a giant opportunity here in San Diego, tons of things going on with the Internet of Things and drones, bioinformatics, ton of things obviously in biotech, specifically if there's, which I kind of like biotech and technology as one. It's certainly merging this idea of health and health-related infrastructure and genomics. It's a wonderful space to be in. And then you have cool companies, not that they're not cool, but then you have fun companies like Take Lessons, which is more consumer-facing. And it's more education technology and allowing people to connect and build businesses. So, and again, you'll hear from Tap Hunter and Lars from Green Rope and Classy. And it's just wonderful. When I first started Take Lessons, I couldn't find another startup in San Diego in 2008. And you look around just a few short years later, we're over in the NBC building, I can throw a rock and hit 30 different startups, right? It's amazing, just the sheer number and volume of people that are now involved in startups. And it speaks a lot for San Diego. I think it's a wonderful place. And those of you who are either in the entrepreneurial scene or thinking about it, I honestly believe it is one of the most noble things that you can do. How often do you get the opportunity to affect people's lives in such a way where you are creating jobs so people can make a living and enjoy what they're doing? Isn't that just a wonderful idea? That you don't have to work for someone to do that, like you have the power to create that yourself. And every person in here is either already started a company or thinking about starting a company. It is a beautiful thing. It's art. There's a little bit of science in there, which is fun for all of our science heads. But it is art as well. There's no straight line. And I think that's what makes it a beautiful career, is to go and try and fail and try again and not let the lows get you too down or the highs get you too up, and just keep coasting, keep rolling.
Nice. Thanks for that.
Sure.
Questions? We've got some time. Yeah, we've got first hand up right here.
My question, I guess, would be, so my kind of, you said the shiny penny kind of syndrome. So my question would be, how do you pick an idea? If you have, I feel like every day, Casey can attest to this, every day I'm coming to the office, I'm like, I had the best idea last night. And I have this other idea that I want, I'm like, I'm gonna put all my efforts here. How do you pick or distinguish between the ideas that you should put like 100% toward versus, maybe a back burner idea versus how do you choose an idea if you feel like you have a lot?
Sure. Well, thanks for that question. I think that's something that all entrepreneurs face. Anyone else face that? You're not alone. Look at that. I think when I started to take lessons, I had 3 or 4 different things in the works as well. The best advice I can give you is it's back to seed, select, amplify. There's part of that where you can't do everything. And in fact, there's a high dilution factor when you try to do too much. And at some point, you just have to pick. Think about what it is that would motivate you. What is it that you think that you can get traction on and that the market would pay you for? Try to do as much testing as you can around that single idea, maybe 2 ideas tops. Anything beyond that, I think I wouldn't be able to do. It's like it would be certainly dilutive to actually getting the result that you want. And know that there's a good chance that you might be wrong, right? And it's okay. It's absolutely 100% okay that you'll walk down a path and it's not the right path. So I was talking to a guy named Brian Tracy. Do you know who Brian Tracy is? He's a motivational speaker guy. And we were talking about business one day, and he said, son, he's an old guy, he said, son, it reminds me of a story. He goes, your story is very similar to where you start walking down a hallway because you want to get down to the end of the door. Because on the other side of that door is riches and glory and fame. That's what you want, right? So you start walking down that hallway, and you get to the door, and you twist that knob, and you know what? It's locked. Shit, it's locked, right? My first shiny object is locked. What do I do? And you happen to turn around and you look and you notice there's 2 other hallways. You're like, I didn't know those were there. So you start walking down the next hallway. And down at the end of that hallway is another door. And you get to that door and you turn that knob and you know what happens? It's locked as well. But then you notice the 3rd hallway. And at the end of that hallway is another door that you twist that knob and finally get it open. And the key that he was telling me is that you never know how to get to that door, the one that will open, unless you just start walking down the hallway. You're going to twist a couple knobs and it's not going to be right? You're going to, crap, that one's locked. That door's locked. This door's locked. And we did that at Take Lessons, right? We tried 3 or 4 different avenues and it just didn't work. It's okay, you just keep going. You eventually pick one.
Next question. Yes.
So you have a service-based model, which means that you have your teachers and your students. How did you decide, if you can share this, number 1, what your fee was going to be, and then how you were going to do the split between what your teachers take and then what you keep out of it?
Sure. So we have a marketplace model for local businesses to where we match and we take a cut of the lessons that occur through the platform. And so we worked through 3 or 4 different models. And at first we took a 40% cut of every lesson that came around. And teachers did not like that at all. And so we were talking with actually a guy named Bill Gurley from Benchmark Capital when we were raising money. And he said, the reason I'm not going to invest with you because your fee is too high. You need to lower it to 15% and your business will explode. I said, okay. So we lowered it to 15%. And you know what happened? Nothing. Except that we lost half of our revenue overnight, just like that. And we tried that model for about almost a year, and that didn't work either. So we kept, again, messing and figuring out the model, and we landed on a model where we now have a tiered pricing model, where as we start, we have a higher cost up front to deliver a student. So we take a higher percentage fee. As that student stays on the platform with that instructor, our fee keeps dropping all the way down to, even if they bring their own, 7.5%. So they're incented, instructors are incented to keep people on the platform, and we make up our cost of acquisition very quickly, within the first month, actually.
In the back?
So how do you drive demand organically? So I think if you're right that you drive demand organically for the supply side, how do you drive demand? Because they don't need a lesson, it's a want. The needs are from the teachers, and they want to increase their business opportunities and leverage an advertising platform like yours.
Right.
Because the demand is just a want, they don't need an analyst.
So yeah, well, some people need it, right? They actually feel like they do, and that's part of our scene. But I hear what you're saying, and the question is, how do you capture more of the front end consumer demand that is there, whatever that might be? When we first started, we bought advertising, We are now at the point where about 78 to 80% of all of our traffic is organic traffic. And that only comes, first of all, through being in the business for 8 years. So I don't know of a quick fix way to do that, but what I can tell you is I have a lot of buddies, and they're kind of like the internet marketing gurus. I call them the guys that sit around in their underwear and make $1 million a year. You ever heard of these guys? They're all over San Diego, right? They just have this way of figuring this out. And so I started talking with them and figuring out kind of how they do their business. And it's very simply sales funnel management. You drive people into the site. We're doing that now through relevant content. We have a blog that produces more traffic than what we actually get to our core site now. And once they're there, we capture their email address and we market to them in such a way that allows them to purchase when they're ready. What we found is that most people that hit our site are not ready to purchase. They like the idea, but they're not ready to buy. So our job at that point is to nurture them through the process until such time that they are ready to buy. So by the time someone's ready to buy, so think about a mom right now. Do we have any moms? A couple moms, okay. So moms right now, it's March, April, what they're thinking about is some of their kids back to school, right? We got summer camp and then, okay, then they're gonna want something back to school. When do I gotta put them in? And some of the searches that are being done are for back to school in August and September. They're not ready to buy right now. So our job is to capture those folks, build a relationship with them in such a way to where by the time school rolls back around and they are finally ready to buy, they don't think of anyone else other than Take Lessons. And so if you think about the methodology and why we're doing what we're doing, again, we kicked off a brand new online learning platform. And for starters, we are giving away free classes. So literally, everyone can go sign up for learn guitar, learn Spanish. We took a Spanish for dining out the other day. It was great. It was a wonderful course. It's a high quality course, but there are tons of courses and classes you can take. And what we're doing is we're building relationships over and over and over again with people digitally. So by the time when they're ready to purchase something, they go, you know what? I like the Take Lessons site. They're pretty cool and they give me free stuff. How many of you like free stuff? We all like free stuff, right? And it's a way for us to build a relationship with people so when they're ready to buy, they're going to. It's sales funnel 101 and truly capturing more on that front end. So have a strategy for how you get some of that organic traffic. It depends on your particular type of business. We're not one of those businesses where we have a viral component where people sign up and then invite 10 of their friends, they give us their email and invite 10 of their friends. We've not been able to crack that code. So what we do, again, is we write a ton of highly relevant, important content. Gary's helped us out with some of that as well. Thank you. And we've built this over time. Just to put it in perspective, from last quarter to this quarter, we've had a 55% gain in our organic traffic coming in from content. So if you write great content, it will work. Well, it's working now. In a year, it may not work. It's constantly changing, right? It's all the time changing. But that's what we've done to drive growth.
Do you split test your sales funnel?
Like a mofo. Yeah, we have changed the DNA in our company to a growth testing organization. Matt is our conversion rate specialist, and how many tests do you have running right now?
10 to 20 now.
Oh,
Just on email collection.
Just on email collection. So constant testing.
Did you?
Yeah, how do you keep really good people and then how do you empower them?
That's a great question. So you keep really good people by running a really good organization and by empowering them. So we had Culture Camp today, and we have 4 new people. Gina, is that right? 4 new people in Culture Camp, 4 or 5?
4 and then 6 or
6 people in Culture
That's
Camp.
right.
And what my message to our newbies is, hey, this is your company. We don't micromanage you. You're here because we believe you have these characteristics that we look for in an individual. So, and because you have those characteristics, we believe that you're going to create your job better than what it's already created, and you're empowered to do so. But in order to have that, to backstep from there, you as a CEO have to have a very strong idea of the type of company you want to build and the type of culture you wanted to develop. And if you have that down, you know why you're in business, not just what you do, but why you do that, then I find it much easier to attract the type of people who naturally believe the way that the company believes in.
We're gonna take one more.
Ooh.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Thank you. So, thank you for this. I really appreciate hearing the story. My question goes back to when you first started. So the question goes to, you didn't tell us, did you bring on one or two partners? So I wanted to know what that looked like. And then when you consider the partner financially or just as an alternative, what were the qualities and the non-negotiables in looking at the partnership? I hear it's like a marriage. So I'm looking at a partner. Can you help me with what that looks like?
And when you say partner, do you mean financial partner or
Financial,
new
both.
employee or?
Co-ownership in a company, so partnership, two people collaborating, 50% ownership each.
Well, we weren't 50% ownership. I owned 100% of the business starting out, and because I funded the company, and so the way we set up our company was more structured like a typical. I structured the company in such a way to where down the road, if a venture firm looked at us, it was the type of company that they like to see. So stock was granted early, founder shares was granted early, and by the time we raised venture capital, the capitalization table was set up in such a way to where it was very easy for them to own part of the company by investing in the company. And it's a very long conversation on how to do that. It doesn't have to be that way. You could very easily say, I'm going to go into partnership with someone. They're the financial partner, I'm the operator, we're going to run it. I don't suggest 50-50. Someone needs to be the boss, right? Someone needs to make the decisions. So I recommend something less or more than 50-50.
I think we're good on time, maybe one more, and then we are
We
gonna
got two
hang
more
out.
if we want.
Okay, we got it, good.
Have you considered being a tool for sales networks like MLMs or realtors or people who are teaching people how to flip homes, but teachers that are teaching a network that's dependent on the leader and using it as a revenue generator for that business?
Sure. So what we've built is a platform for educators to teach. And it's better than Skype, it's better than FaceTime, which is what a lot of our folks use. Really, it is. It's a wonderful, exceptional piece of software. And we don't know how people will use it. That's what's wonderful about it. We had a yoga studio call us and say, hey, can I put up a camera in the back and just set up yoga classes and do that? We're like, sure. We have a dating coach on air who's using it for her clients. We have a data scientist. We have that's her, yeah. We have a data scientist who called us and said, hey, I have my own group that I want to just give classes to. It wouldn't surprise me if a lot of self-help people started using it to basically use it for lead gen and then to sell into whatever they wanted to. So what's exciting for me personally is I don't know how people are going to use it. It's like, what is your imagination? What do you want to teach? What are you expert at that you could give a class, whether it be an hour or whether it be a continual course? The world is open right now. Like, we are open for business. What do you want to teach? It's literally, I have no idea what's going to happen. And it's a wonderful, exciting opportunity.
How do you see EdTech transforming?
In fact, we were just having a conversation, Nithya, with Nithya just a few minutes ago. And she has a beautiful vision, which I subscribe to. And education has a way of transforming people's lives. And still today, it's tied to the more developed countries. But the way we see education developing is it's not only you can get true distributed learning and learn whatever you want from a real instructor at any given point in time, not just in the US or not just to the people who have a job, but literally we believe that this can transform and touch the farthest reaches of the entire world. Right? People are better off when they're educated. Do you believe that?
Mm-hmm.
This sort of platform, and it's not just Take Lessons, but it's other people working in this space, will be able to help define what the world looks like because people are more educated. When you can open up the world and instead of building up walls, tear them down, right? With education, the world becomes a better place. And I think that the internet, I think that that education has the opportunity to do that. So I look forward to tearing down some of those walls instead of building them up. My
Amen.
personal belief.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much. That was awesome.
Give it up for our host.